and development effort on their part to continue building ballistic missiles that could threaten everywhere in the world, basically. The bottom line is it's a continued effort to build a threat, a ballistic missile threat that endangers world peace, regional peace, and certainly the United States.
Well, that was Defense Secretary James Mattis discussing North Korea firing its first ballistic missile since September 15th. This missile's range was further than any others in the past, and now with the capability of hitting anywhere in the United States. It was launched around 3 a.m. North Korean time and was fired toward the Sea of Japan. Back with us now, Ron Christie, along with Bruce Klingner, Heritage Foundation Senior Fellow, Research Fellow, and former CIA Deputy Division Chief for Korea, and Harry Kazanias, Center for the National Interest Defense Studies Director. Let me start with you on this, Harry, because I like the fact that the Defense Secretary Mattis gave a very sobering and honest description of this, and I think he laid out the kind of fear or anxiety we should have. He said it was just higher, frankly, than any previous shot, and that now that these weapons that they're developing endanger world peace and certainly even the United States.
Yeah, I mean, I think the comments were spot on. I think what we're really witnessing here is a North Korea that is going to be relentless and continue to test its missile and nuclear weapons capabilities.
Why?
They want to be able to have the capability to hit the United States with a nuclear weapon. That's their goal. I mean, Kim Jong-un has basically risked life, treasure, and essentially impoverished his nation of 25 million people to get there. And I'd say he's very, very close. In fact, we'll probably know within the next 48 hours if the re-entry vehicle, in other words, the warhead that would come down in a city or a target, if it went through the atmosphere. If it did, that means game's over. That means North Korea can hit the United States with a nuclear weapon.
Right, Bruce. And of course, we know that the last nuclear test involved the miniaturization of a hydrogen bomb that could be loaded on a long-range missile. So none of this is a surprise per se. In fact, you could even argue it goes back to Kim Jong-un's grandfather. But the rapid pace of progression and the abilities of North Korea are stunning. I can remember having the same conversation at the beginning of the year, and experts are saying what we saw today was 2 or 3 years off. Now what do we do?
Well, I think we've seen really over the last several decades a tendency to downplay or dismiss the North Korean threat. First in the 90s, people questioned the plutonium program. Then people dismissed the uranium program, nuclear weapons program, as just a figment of George Bush's imagination. Then they dismissed the Syrian reactor. And then we've seen the tendency to say, well, it's still several years away. And people have been saying that for several years. So, really isn't a surprise. We've seen the 3 ICBM tests this year. Each one has flown to a higher trajectory, right, which equates to a longer range had it been flown on a normal trajectory.
Do we get to a point, though, Bruce, where we say they have the capabilities and they go past the Rubicon? In other words, where it's okay for us to start considering preemptive action?
Well, we've really, we're splitting hairs. Do they have the capability today, tomorrow, next week, or next year? We're really quibbling. We know that they already have nuclear-capable missiles that can hit this.
Are we okay now, morally, ethically, logically, to consider preemptive action right now?
Well, a preemptive attack would be if you feel North Korea is about to attack you, and that's been longstanding U.S. policy. What the Trump administration has done is sort of layered on top of that the idea of a preventive attack of, even if we don't think they are about to attack us, initiate a war to prevent a war.
Ron Christie, of course, this all happens as Hillary Clinton is in Asia, blaming the Trump administration for stoking the animosity that has existed, to Bruce's point, for a couple of decades between the two nations. But political will on this. President Trump says, don't worry about it, they'll take care of this. How do they take care of this? And are there political obstacles to what they may have to do?
Well, first, Charles, I would say it's the ultimate of hubris for the former Secretary of State to say that this is Trump's escalation, when in fact it was her husband's administration that led us down this road, of course, of giving the North Koreans the ability to proliferate nuclear weapons in the first place. How do we back down from here? This is a very, very difficult situation. Having been in the DMZ myself, it's a very scary place, given the fact that if the North Koreans decide to be very aggressive, that they could kill hundreds of thousands of people. How do we move from here? I think it's up to the Congress and it's up to this administration to impose additional sanctions on North Korea to ensure that they understand they're isolated from the world community if they continue down this line.
Well, we'll see what happens, guys. I'm just not sure sanctions will be the answer. Gentlemen, we've run out of time. I appreciate all your expert analysis there. Coming up,
Good to see you.
Another major record day on Wall Street. Stocks